Welcome everybody. Welcome to tonight's show. हमारे साथ गुरमीत सर हैं. I'm very excited to learn from you tonight, sir. And of course, we all know Gurmeet sir. We all are fans of Gurmeet sir. He's managing partner with Complete Circle. And sir, I absolutely love the work that you do and the insights that you share. And tonight also, I think markets जो है एक बहुत ही critical juncture पे हैं. एंड टू टेल यू ऑनेस्टली लाइक कल जब हम लोग ऑफिस से निकल रहे थे शाम को देयर वाज अ न्यूज की 9.1% इन्फ्लेशन रेट आया है एंड देन अ कलीग ऑफ माइन जस्ट सेड कि कल मार्केट क्रैश होने वाला है, बहुत बड़ा क्रैश आने वाला है बिकॉज दिस इज लाइक अनएक्सपेक्टेड कि 9% 20 साल में नहीं हुआ. बट देन द मार्केट वाज आल्सो काइंड ऑफ confusing is all I can say. I would love to have your insights on it, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the kind words. See, I think everybody is now an inflation expert. People were Russia-Ukraine war experts few months back. Before that, they were experts on how the yield curve inverted in US. Before they were COVID experts. Uh, on a serious note, I think markets are extremely forward-looking, and what the market would obviously 9% inflation reading is not great news, and I think the Fed would be forced to front load more rate hikes. But I think we should also be when you look at inflation numbers, you should see the which series data you are looking at. So this is basically June in prices inflation, right? And a large part of the correction started happening around last week of June in commodity prices. So maybe August reading, which will be July commodity prices now with oil below 100, and I was looking at the commodity index on copper, aluminium, steel, for example, in India is down from 80,000 rupees to 60,000 rupees a ton. Copper is 17-month low. Palm oil, sugar, even cotton, some of the other agri commodities. I think the prices are down, and I think August onwards probably you will see a more softer reading, and maybe if that trend sustains, the market will start discounting a lot of things. Also, always look at the yield curve. We get so obsessed by prices, Nifty, SGX, Nifty, Nasdaq. We forget to look at the yield curve. If you remember, 6 months back, the US yield curve has inverted. Inverted का मतलब होता है shorter end yields are higher than the longer end yields, right? So the shorter end yields, even now, right now, for example, the US 10-year bond is lesser than the US 2-year bond by about 20 basis points, which means, yeah, the inversion of yield curve basically tells you the market is not comfortable taking a long call on the longer end of the yield curve, and that basically signals a recession. It's a lead indicator. Typically, it comes 6 months ahead, and that is what you need to track. So I think what you need to track as an investor is the 10-year government yield in US Treasury crossing 3.5. If it crosses 3.5, emerging market outflows along with strengthening of the dollar will continue, because it's like इंडिया में अगर मैं आपको 10% का एफडी दूंगा तो आप इक्विटी में पैसा नहीं लगाओगे ना. तो 3.5% 10-year US, which is considered, it may not be the safest, one of the safest avenues. Lot of money goes there. Second thing you need to track is inflation, which I think both of them are linked. So inflation numbers are very high, the 10-year will keep inching up. And so India में अगर आप देखोगे, for example, the 10-year bond is roughly 7.5%. The repo rate is 490, right? तो ऑलरेडी वो 260 बेसिस पॉइंट्स ऊपर है लॉन्गर एंड आपका, विच मीन्स वो प्राइस इन कर रहा है कि आरबीआई 2 या 3 रेट हाइक और करेगा. So important thing to do right now as an investor is to see how much of that is getting reflected in the bond yields. And if bond yield is capturing it fully, the incremental risk is less. If the bond yield is not capturing it fully, the incremental risk to equity is also very, very high. So I think that is something you need to think. My sense is 80-90% bond yields are capturing it. Now I could be wrong if inflation continues to be very sticky, doesn't come down below 8.5 for next 2 months also. But so far, that is the reading. Third, I think you should do what you are good at. You have no control over US inflation. We have no control over what Fed will do. Our control is what we can buy, right? What we can, so look, rather than looking at the Fed balance sheet, we should look at our, then take a call. Have a slightly balanced approach right now. Do not get carried away. There are opportunities, and remember, ups and downs are part of everything, whether it is sports, whether it is investing, whether it's your professional career. So that will keep happening. So focus on what you are good at. I personally think next 30, 40, 50 days are one of the best periods to invest for a lot of long term investors.
Right. Perfect, sir. That's a perfect analysis. Now, sir, I also want to understand a little bit about, like, we saw a few scenarios that we must be tracking. But beyond that, how much impact can US Fed making some changes in its interest rates have on India? So I'm talking a little bit more about sector specific. For instance, IT may be
Sure,
impacted a little more, maybe. But yeah, so from that perspective, which sectors to look out for from here, sir?
sure. No, I think that's a nice question. I think, and that's what, as I said, we have to see the impact rather than keep discussing inflation and what Fed is doing. I think, see, a lot of people have this belief that if inflation is going to pick up and there is, let's say, there will be a recession, which means IT spending will slow down. Now, this is a very traditional way of looking at it, right? I don't think so. That's the correct way of looking at it. Also, the other view is, okay, rupee has depreciated, so सारे IT stocks अच्छा करेंगे क्योंकि dollar में revenue आता है. That again is generalizing it too much. So since you spoke about IT, I'll give you a perspective. So whenever everybody gets time, now there is one stock which has been the darling of stock market in last 12 or in fact last 2 years has been Tata Elxsi, right? And if you go to Tata Elxsi, just did a they published their annual report. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't read it. But if you get time, go to their website. Their annual report is updated. और आप शुरू का management assessment पढ़ो. You don't have to read the full annual report. Just the 2-3 pages what management thinks about. So Tata Elxsi basically IT में there are three segments in IT. One are your basic IT services. Second is advanced IT spending, which is what the digital spending, which has picked up since COVID, which is cloud adoption. I'm making it very simple. It may not be three categories. I'm just trying to simplify for users. Is that then there's your digital spend areas, which is cloud adoption, and new areas which are emerging on AI and Internet of Things and blockchain, etc. And third is engineering, research, and design, right? So engineering, research, and design is basically where you are transforming the core of the organization. So if I'm an automobile company, I'm outsourcing my design capabilities to a digital partner, right? I'm an aerospace company. I am, again, or a heavy engineering company. I am outsourcing a core part of my design. I can't slow down on that, right? I have, because that's something which is core to me. So in fact, you have to spend more. So I heard Mr. Ramesh Mantri saying that engineer tech spending is my voice okay, or is there an issue with the audio? I just got
Yes, 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 yes.
okay.
No, sir, it's perfectly audible,
Okay,
sir.
perfect. So I'm saying so coming to ERD, for example. So why did Tata Elxsi run up? Tata Elxsi run up because if you see the ERD spend right now, ERD spend India का जो share है अभी वो $16 billion है, right? Which is 2022. I'm talking about the year ending March. The industry expects the India share to go up to 60-65 billion dollars in next 7-8 years. Now that's a 15% growth for the industry, right? And then you have Tata Elxsi, with last 2 years, let's say, grew 24% CAGR. So you had one guy on ERD, which is so here in the annual report they talk about what is their differentiated offerings in design engineering, what are the subscriber platforms they are doing, right? What is the offshoring? A lot of people don't understand the difference between offshore onshore. So they basically try and explain what is their expertise, what is their. So I suggest everyone to go through it because that's one stock which has done well, and because the outlook is so good, the stock run up quickly. So market is up. So IT stocks will get differentiated. Somebody who's into core and transformation outsourcing and software tie-ups, somebody who's like a co-inventor with their client will do well versus somebody which is just generalized IT services, right? SAP implement कर दिया, CRM implement कर दिया, so on and so forth. So यहाँ पे अब differentiation होगा. Last 5 years, if you see IT, BSC IT index is 23% CAGR despite this fall of 30-40%. तो आपने इंडेक्स भी ले लिया होता तो इंडेक्स भी 3 साल में डबल हो रहा है आईटी इंडेक्स का. सो एवरीथिंग वाज गोइंग अप. सो व्हेन एवरीथिंग गोज अप देयर कम्स अ टाइम, सो 70-80-90 पी पे स्टॉक्स आने लगे, देन द मार्केट हैड टू ब्रिंग रैशनैलिटी बैक. So in my view, IT, you have to be very careful in terms of what you buy. Now the second misconception is that डॉलर बढ़ता है तो होगा तो आईटी को फायदा होगा. नाउ इफ लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज अ कंपनी कॉल्ड केपीआईटी, उसका 40% रेवेन्यू यूएस से आता है, 40% यूरोप से आता है और बाकी रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड है, तो उसको क्या फायदा होगा करेंसी का? तो यू हैव टू चेक what part of the revenue comes in dollar, right? Because companies are reporting numbers in constant currency terms. So you have to keep that thing into mind. Mindtree reported numbers. So Mindtree used to be very expensive when it used to be at 4,500. I mean, it's still pretty high. But Mindtree is one company which is able to maintain 20% margin, give a guidance for it. It's been 6 quarters. They are beating estimates. सो 550-600 million का उनका डील बुक है. EBITDA margin अच्छा है. They have been able to manage costs. So what the margin tells you is that the company is able to still maintain margin despite headwinds, and the fact that it is really doing a core work and not just simple IT discretionary IT services. तो इसको थोड़ा closely track करना है and go level 2. And if you are not a IT guy, take help of a expert on this. Yeah.
Right. Perfectly put, sir. Sir, one more thing I wanted to understand. So I have a few more sectors that I kind of want to understand from you. But before that, I also wanted to understand one more thing. So we've also seen that while inflation rates are rising and everything, crude has been consistently falling as well. I also want to understand how would this calculation factor in going forward from here. Of course, this should have a positive impact, but so far, I think that has not been factored in by the market, but I may be wrong. So I want to understand that from you.
Sure. No, so crude has a large part of our for FX outflow. A large part of it is crude and gold. So any $10 drop in crude, the annual savings for India is $10 to $15 billion. So that is how sensitive it is. And so I think what people are getting confused is एक टाइम पे लोग बोलते हैं कि रिसेशन आ रहा है, दूसरे टाइम पे आप बोलते हो कि क्रूड $120 जा रहा है. दोनों चीजें नहीं हो सकती. So either you say recession is coming. If recession is coming, demand will collapse. And demand will collapse, how can crude remain at 120?
That's
Or you
precisely
say,
what my doubt is, sir.
huh? Sorry, sorry, I didn't get you, partner. Sorry.
Yes, yes. So I said that's precisely what my doubt is.
Yeah, so I'm saying this spike in crude is more supply disruption than actual demand. दूसरा ये जो last 4-5 साल में partner क्या हुआ है ना, all of us have been made to understand clean energy is good, ESG, wind, solar. हमने ना hard assets में invest ही नहीं किया. सारा पैसा ऐप बनाने में जाता है, स्टार्टअप बनाने में जाता है, सबको टेक्नोलॉजी में एसेट लाइट मॉडल चाहिए, बट कोई तो एसेट भी क्रिएट करेगा ना. And now you need food to eat. You can't eat emojis on LinkedIn, on Instagram ना, या वीडियो देख के थोड़ी पेट भर जाएगा. So we have not invested much on hard assets, both agri as well as. So at some point of time the shortage had to come. Everybody wanted to be a platform, nobody wanted to be a producer. So markets and economics have its own way of getting to mean reversion. And now what happens is when the prices go up, the investment starts. तो ये वर्चुअस साइकिल है. अभी भाव नहीं था तो कोई इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहा था. अभी ऑयल $110-$120 होगा तो डिगिंग होगी. आपके ऑयल रिग्स का आप डेटा ट्रैक करो. More oil will be produced because everybody wants to make money. If you produce more, and since the world is going through a slowdown because of rising interest rates, इन्वेंट्री लेवल बढ़ने लगेगा. तो पिछले एक हफ्ते से इन्वेंट्री लेवल बढ़ने लगा है. आप 5 साल का अगर ऑयल फ्यूचर देखोगे तो वो $70 है. It's not. Last time in crude, when it went up in 2010-11 at 120-130, the 5-year futures also went up $100. तो आपको ये अभी दिखा रहा है कि ये because Russia, Venezuela, Iran oil is not on the table, and obviously the demand picked back to pre-COVID. This is a deception. देखिए $0 हुआ था वो भी गलत था. $120-130 है वो भी ज्यादा है. At some point of time the equilibrium will come, and when it will come, it will not tell you. When the commodities fall, they fall like in a week, 10 days, and it's look at for example in the last 3-4 days, right? When it fell $20. So my view is that the more reasonable price for oil after some time should be more in that 70-80 bracket and not at this price, and which I think is very positive for India. Also our inflation basket is very different than US and rest of the world. So we are doing much better on inflation. ए हमने प्राइसेस हमारे यहाँ कंट्रोल थे तो हमारे एनर्जी प्राइसेस नहीं बढ़े हैं. यूएस में लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ दैट इन्फ्लेशन इज एनर्जी प्राइसेस, almost 60% of that. Second, even on food, a lot of the food we give is in a subsidized way, and those Annapurna scheme and all that. So I think our inflation number, you will see softening earlier than US inflation number. And if crude drops, I think that could be one of the big triggers for the sell-off to reduce in the market.
Right. Perfect, sir. So with this out of the way, so now I also want to now I do want to discuss sectors kind of from both of these perspectives. One is crude oil falling, and at the same time inflation increasing. So now that we'll have a more balanced view of those. So from then on, sir, another sector that is kind of very hot right now, I guess, is auto sector.
Yeah.
So I would love to have your view on that, Saki. That is also kind of contradictory. That if in case interest rates are rising, then people would basically cut down on their non-essential demands, which includes probably luxury items like cars.
Sure.
But the rates have been consistently rising. So yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
So again, what I'm saying is, see, so we have auto has gone through a very bad last 3-4 years, right? So anything that could go wrong has gone wrong. So there was BS6 transition. Then you had COVID, and then you had ownership, third party insurances, pool getting dismantled, prices went up. Then you have supply side disruptions. So anything that could, it's a perfect cocktail. And then what also happened was there were hardly any new launches from the Indian listed players. So मारुति का last launch 2017 में था, उसके बाद अब नए मॉडल आ रहे हैं, right? M&M for example, XUV 500 last came in 2011-12, right? Scorpio आया था 2010 में, right? And from 2015 their market share in SUV was 40%, and then it fell to 10% because they hardly launched anything in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think, so two things there: a, there is pent up demand because there is shortage. So if you see today, you want to book anything. So for example, if you see Mahindra, for example, since Mahindra right now is doing pretty well, Mahindra का booking जो है 1,80,000 units का है. Of which XUV 700 alone is like almost 1 lakh units. And now you have their new Scorpio, abhi Bolero aa raha hai, and they are doing the product laddering right. So they want to get back to 25-28% market share. So, and what is also happening is the best selling car 5 years back was an Alto. And then it was a hatchback called Baleno. Now Alto is third or fourth. So the market is also moving towards multi-utility vehicles. In fact, Siam thinks that 60% of the vehicles sold by 26-27 will be SUVs and city multi-utility vehicles. So the product cycle is coming back. It came back for Tamo first. So Tata was earlier in terms of coming up with Harrier, and then Safari, and then the EV, which they are right now having 80-90% market share. Mahindra is now, Maruti will be a little back-ended in terms of their launches. They also have 6 launches, including 3 SUVs, including one Jimny, which is the Gypsy variant. So the new products are coming. That is point number one. Commodity prices have started coming down. So they have done price hikes. There are hardly any discounts because there are, not enough available. And at some point of time, the chip shortage and others will also get addressed. So, and that's a perfect combination of for a company. So it gives you that operating leverage, right? Your utilization levels go up, your margins improve because commodity drops. There are hardly any discounts, and there is huge pent up demand. In fact, मैं ना cancellation rate check कर रहा था. कई बार क्या होता है, ये order book can be very dicey. The cancellation rates are not more than 10% क्योंकि कुछ भी नहीं मिल रहा है. So whether you want to book even a Fortuner today, you have to wait for 3, 4, 5 months. You have to book any SUV today, you have to wait, a minimum 6 to 12 months. So I think auto that ways look good. Also, you should go level 2 on that. That what are the ancillaries which are also going to benefit, right? In auto, because there is serious disruption which is going to happen there. So तो हमें हमारे पोर्टफोलियो के लिए M&M टाटा मोटर्स अच्छा लगता है. हमें मिंडा बहुत अच्छा लगता है. The kit value for Minda 6-7 years back used to be 2,000 rupees. वो 2,000 रुपए के पार्ट सप्लाई करता था ऑटो कंपनीज को, मारुति को, सबको. टुडे देयर एस्पिरेशन इज टू सप्लाई kit value worth 35,000 rupees, right? So they want to make airbags also. They don't want to restrict themselves to horns or switches alone. तो airbag बनाता है, alloy wheel बना रहा है, smart plug बना रहा है, any electrical component you can think of, they are trying to do a JV. So you should also don't lose sight of what is the ecosystem of the entire automotive. So we are pretty constructive on this space, but ये ना cyclical sector है. You can't take a 10-year view on auto. So if prices go up too quickly, you have to be careful.
Right. Uh, right. Perfect, sir. So, sir, next sector that I kind of want to really discuss is our real estate sector. I think वहाँ पे भी काफी इस समय कुछ कुछ हलचल चल रही है. Do you have a view on that, sir?
After a lot of time, in fact, I think after 2009, if I'm not wrong, I have seen this kind of housing sale. I was in Bombay, and I think Lodha launched a project in, I think in Malad, it is Infini. If there's somebody from Bombay, he can confirm. And they did a 200 crore pre-sales in 3 days. Right? DLF in Gurgaon sold 12 units of Camellias. Camellia is a 35 crore apartment, by the way. I don't know what they have gold bricks or tiles inside. I don't know why they charge that much. But any housing project, mid end, high end, if you see Lodha's number, if you see DLF numbers, you pick up Soba, you pick up Prestige, you pick up all major developers. They are reporting very good pre-sales. They are also deleveraging happening in terms of because their balance sheets have been very stressed. I have a feeling housing cycles are much longer, and we are in a good housing cycle. A two-bedroom guy wants to have a three-bedroom guy, three-bedroom apartment. Three-bedroom wants to have a four-bedroom. The rented guy wants to have an own apartment. तो ये हमारा एक थोड़ा सा soft point भी है Indians का अपना घर, right? So घर और गाड़ी, as you rightly said, are the two biggest discretionary or aspirational expenses we have in our goals which we plot. So I think that's pretty good. And my view is that real estate you can play, but sometimes the balance sheet can be very tricky for real estate, right? वो कितना deleverage करते हैं वो बहुत important है, other than the top line growth and etc. And commodity prices fluctuation से थोड़ा execution risk आता है, although that has become favorable now. So I am constructive there, but I am more constructive again, as I said, in auto on the entire ecosystem of housing. So there are 40 different sectors which are linked with housing, and that's where those companies are, consumer good companies, and good balance sheets, great return ratios. So I am pretty constructive on, let's say, cable and wires. I am pretty constructive. So let's say there is a company which I've been talking about for last 4 or 5 years now, which we have in our portfolio. Again, more for illustration, not to give you any stock recommendation, is, let's say, a Polycab. So Polycab, if you again, as I said, just आपको ना बहुत ज़्यादा रिसर्च करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. आप कंपनी की वेबसाइट पे जाओगे तो बहुत information मिलता है उसके annual report पे. So if you see, for example, the way they have transformed, from a pure B2B wholesale provider to builders and real estate guys to now something about Hevel State, they're trying to replicate that, right? So they have fast moving electrical goods. They have last, for example, 4 or 5 years, their FMEG, जिसे हम बोलते हैं fast moving electrical good portfolio, has been growing at a healthy 20%, right? And its current market share is, in terms of organized, is already 20%. So they've done pretty well. They are increasing their distribution network. They almost have 2 lakh outlets now. They're focusing on e-commerce as well. And in cables and wires also, they're trying to do premiumization, go more B2C. So it's a very good play, great return ratios, and free cash flow. And that is something which we think will. And इसमें क्या है ना, cable wires है, pipes है, sanitary है. Unorganized market is still bigger than the organized market. तो एक तो आपको टॉप लाइन ग्रोथ मिलेगा, आपको साथ में मार्केट शेयर गेन मिलेगा, एंड क्योंकि प्रीमियमाइजेशन हो रहा है तो मार्जिन भी एक्सपैंड होगा. तो ये परफेक्ट प्ले होता है किसी भी कंज्यूमर गुड कंपनीज के लिए, वेर यू ग्रो, यू गेन मार्केट शेयर फ्रॉम अनऑर्गेनाइज टू ऑर्गेनाइज, and then you also add to the margin. So the delta you get on earnings is pretty good. और 30,000 करोड़ की मार्केट कैप की कंपनी, ऐसा नहीं है कि बहुत बहुत बड़ी कंपनी. इट्स लाइक अ मिड, आई वुड से लार्ज मिड कैप, इफ नॉट अ लार्ज कैप, और बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपेंसिव नहीं है. सो similarly, and I have a lot of friends. I can see there is Aditya, Meet, and all. So we have Pragya here on the call. We have a team which we track housing, the building material space very, very closely, and there are a lot of things we like in this space.
Right, right. Perfect, sir. Sir, the next sector is so based on the understanding of what we have understood, I have understood so far from the conversation. a lot in these sectors is kind of like we discussed कि IT में it is बहुत लंबा एक दौड़ थी and then it's kind of cooling down. Auto और इसमें they are kind of resistant. Auto में maybe so auto was the opposite maybe कि काफी टाइम से थोड़ा दबा हुआ था and then it's time to rise again. Real estate में it's kind of in a good run right now and that probably will continue. The next sector I want to understand is फार्मा सेक्टर बिकॉज कोविड के चलते उसमें भी बहुत रन आया था बट देन अभी इट हैज हैड सम टाइम टू कूल मे बी बट देन उसमें क्या सिचुएशन चल रही है यू कैन गिव सम इनसाइट सर
Sure. तो तो pharma में ना partner there are broadly four segments, and I think one the best guy for pharma. I don't know if you've had a space from him is Aditya Khemka and Sajal Kapoor. I think I myself learned a lot from them. But so broadly चार segments है. One obviously is generics. And this is where this is a low margin business. This is where you have a lot of exposure to US and other markets, and this is a pricing game and a volume game. So जब भी drug off patent होता है उसका generic version apply होता है, and US में you don't prescribe a drug, you say paracetamol and the guy gives you the cheapest paracetamol. India you write a Dolo, you write a Crocin, or you write a Combiflam, whatever, and accordingly is done. So that is branded generics. And in branded generics you have you have a Sanofi, you have GSK, you have Abbott, right? And these are like your the Unilevers and PNGs of the world, because they command high margins. So their margins are typically 20-25%. It is doctor prescription led. And so for example Sanofi also was in news today for special dividend. They have a great dividend yield, almost 6-7%, reasonable stock. So this is like the ITC. Mind the comparison and the analogy. It's like the ITC of pharma, right? अच्छा dividend देगा, but 5 साल पहले 4,000 का था, अभी 6,500 का है. तो it's a good dividend yielding kind of call. Where Abbott obviously is a little expensive. So Sanofi, if you would know, their brands are Combiflam. They just sold Soframycin, Lantum, Allegra, which is anti-allergy. These are some of their top brands, right? The top 7 brands continue to do very well. They are in top 100. Abbott again is in more in women health and GI and others. Again their brands like Mixtard and etc. are again in top one. The one thing which I like in pharma, which I think if you have like you should have the stomach for volatility. Second, you should have a slightly long-term view. Is this entire cramps and which I call the pharma outsourcing market. So next 2 years you have uh, drug molecules for 20-25 billion getting off patent. एंड इसमें चाइना प्लस वन अभी प्ले आउट नहीं हुआ है. केमिकल्स में हो गया है टू सम एक्सटेंट और होगा. इसमें अभी द बिगर प्ले हैज टू happen. And there is lot of capex, lot of guys are doing. So Divi's is doing 3,000 crores plus capex. Lotus is doing capex. There are a lot of companies who are doing capex. So I continue to have a bias towards Divi's happens to be our portfolio stock. Despite the correction, still is 32, 33 times FY24 earnings. And इसमें होता क्या है? Basically, as the name suggests, you you do research and you do contract manufacturing, and you can do it at various stages, right, from incubation to and Divi's is very good in late life cycle strategies. They have great chemistry skills, great compliance track record. So if you just to give you an example, अभी जो कोविड ड्रग है उसका जो API है मोलनुपिravir, that is what Divi's is making. So their entire cramps business में जो आपको revenue growth दिखा पिछले 2 quarter में, a large part of that was molnupiravir. They were almost doing 100-150 million of dollars a sale per quarter on molnupiravir. Right now उनका जो mix है वो 60-40 है. 60 is custom synthesis, 40 is generics, और 1-2% उनका nutraceutical business है, right? So I think the opportunity here is pretty huge, and the pharma outsourcing opportunity could be 30-40 billion dollars, right? अपनी सबसे बड़ी कंपनी 400-500 million dollar करती है साल का. The biggies in the world do 5-6 billion dollars. So we like this bit, but this is very lumpy business because कब molecule approve होगा, validate होगा, okay. But once it happens, the entry barriers are very high. This is not soap or this is not any auto pot कि आपने cheaper quote दिया तो approve हो गया. But till the time the validations and commercialization happens, the volumes are very lumpy, and that's why the earnings are very erratic. You can have great quarters, and then you can have, this is what happened with Laurus, right? Laurus makes that HIV API, right? And वो कोविड में सबने स्टॉक कर लिया तो नंबर्स बहुत अच्छे आए. और जब डीस्टॉकिंग शुरू हुई तो द numbers were pretty soft. So but you had to have like a 4, 5, 6 year view on these companies, but the wealth creation opportunity I think is pretty high. Fourth is your diagnostics, hospitals, etc. डायग्नोस्टिक में कुछ डिफरेंशिएटेड ऑफरिंग है जो हम स्टडी कर रहे हैं, कृष्णा बीइंग वन, आदित्य माय कोलीग ट्रैक्स इट वेरी क्लोजली, बट यहाँ पे थोड़ा डिसरप्शन होगा, सो वी हैव टू बी केयरफुल एट व्हाट प्राइस वी पे.
Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for sharing those insights, sir. Sir, next sector that I want to discuss is a sector. Okay, उसके बारे में पहले तो ये कि so there is of course you'd know there is something called men's underwear index जो कहा जाता है कि recession के पहले अगर recession आने वाला हो तो सबसे पहले उस पे दिखाई देता है कि men stop buying new underwears. So something related to that which is textiles. इस साल की शुरुआत में 2022 की शुरुआत में we had a lot of people who were bullish on textiles for this year. इस समय, given the current scenario, which nobody had, or maybe some people had foreseen, what do you think about textile sector right now, sir?
सो लोगों का थोड़ा सा डाइवर्जेंट व्यू है इस पे. Reason being that so some people say, including let's say Kotak and some of the CIOs say that amongst the PLI schemes government has done for 13, 14 sectors, the textile is one of the biggest beneficiary, especially the scheme for technical fibers. So एक तो man-made fibers है, which is a normal textile, and then there are technical fibers, right? So there are a lot of beneficiaries on that side. मेरे को ना ये थोड़ा कम समझ में आता है. एक तो टेक्सटाइल थोड़ा लेबर इंटेंसिव है, दूसरा it's fiercely competitive, and then you compete with, even internationally you compete with the Taiwans and etc. of the world. So I find it extremely competitive. One couple of companies we do track in this space, since you mentioned underwears and all. One is Page Industries, but extremely expensive. So they continue to do well, both for men and women wear. They're getting into athleisure and sports segments. They also got into speedo, which is into swimming, and so that's the other segment they want to get into. And they think that the amongst in the organized market, their market share is still in single digit, but remains an expensive stock. Even at post correction. Another one which we track is this, because of the reopening of the economy. And people started getting back to office and schools and colleges, etc. Is this Aditya Birla Fashion, which we called as ABFRL, there, and they had a very good last quarter. The Q4 was pretty good, despite January and February में थोड़ा COVID का impact आया था. और overall office wear, casual wear, wedding wear, they have the complete range they have brands across the segments, and some of the big brands they own. And बीच में उन्होंने capital infusion भी किया. They raised almost 22,000 crores in a combination of preference shares to GIC and Singapore Wealth Fund. So that made the balance sheet look much better, which got stressed because of COVID. And today, so I think so that's why. So आप देखो वो 1300-1400 करोड़ का एबिटा करते हैं, सॉरी रेवेन्यू करते हैं, 300 करोड़ का एबिटा करते हैं. धीरे धीरे आई थिंक विल पिक अप. इनका होलसेल्स में काफ़ी रिवाइवल हुआ है. सो दैट्स व्हाट वी आर ट्रैकिंग. एंड थोड़ा सा पैंटलून में स्ट्रेस था, तो वहाँ भी थोड़ा सा पिकअप हुआ है, विच इज़ देयर, which I would call the common, the mass segment they have. तो ये हम ट्रैक करते हैं, but we don't have any much investments in textile sector in particular in the portfolio.
Right. Perfect, sir. हमारी ऑडियो में आई हैड पिन्ड अ ट्वीट इन दिस स्पेस एंड उस पे काफी सारे क्वेश्चंस आने लगे हैं, तो लेट मी टेक देयर क्वेश्चंस फर्स्ट सो दैट मुझे कहा जाना पड़े कि मैं अपना ही पूछता रहता हूँ. सो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज ओके. हाँ, सो लेट्स गो विद सचिन दुबे सर के क्वेश्चंस आए हैं एंड हिज क्वेश्चन इज, so what is your view on, okay, so this is a stock specific question, sir, and if you track it or if you want to share your view on it, we can discuss it or we can skip it. Of course, whatever we discuss here, none of it is a buy or sell recommendation. Please do your financial research, consult your financial advisor before investing. So Sachin Dubey sir ka question hai, what is your view on HDFC Bank? It has been one of the largest holding across mutual funds and is trading below 5-year median PE and is still underperforming. It is delivered only about 65% returns over the past 5 years. Do you think this stock will underperform till its merger is completed?
You will get a very biased reply from me on HDFC Bank. I'm an ex-employee. This is one of personally, this is one of the largest holdings. I've been buying 10 shares of HDFC Bank for last 12 years, right? So every month, huh, by the
I
way.
know, sir, and that's why I
So
especially wanted to discuss this because
so
I've seen this. That is in fact pinned on your profile as well. I know, sir.
correct, correct. So actually, I'll give you a perspective. I don't know whether it will underperform till merger or not. That's anyone's guess. But I can give you a perspective on HDFC Bank. So HDFC Bank के साथ दो तीन issue हुआ. When you have Abhishek Bachchan being compared to Amitabh Bachchan, Abhishek Bachchan को problem होगा. So Aditya Puri गया and you had Shashi coming in. It's always an unfair comparison. Nobody can fill in Aditya Puri's shoes, right? So so there was a leadership change, which whatever people may say, there is an impact. uh, Second was they had their issues with RBI. They had their issues on technology. वो credit card पे ban लगा, which is one of their, which impacted their fee income and their retail acquisition. And they had some of the tech glitches, and now the merger obviously creates pressure because HDFC Limited के wholesale deposits है, तो उसके आने से उनका कासा गिरता है, and then they have to focus on liability to bring the CASA back to 45%. And then the provisioning additionally, which has to be done, HDFC being housing. I don't want to get into the technicals of it, but there is a near term pressure. But let me give you another insight. So HDFC Bank 2019 was 1200 1300. उसका 20,000 crore का पैट था. लास्ट ईयर their पैट was 36-37,000 crores. तो 3 साल में पैट ऑलमोस्ट डबल हो गया, 17,000 करोड़ ऐड हो गया, भाव वही का वही है. So right, so it used to trade at 5 book value. It has clearly come down to now sub 3 book value. And if you take FY24, probably 2.5 or 2.3, 2.4 book value. So I have not seen HDFC Bank on these valuation multiples in a very, very long time. I've been tracking this for last 10, 15 years. Second, what happens is HDFC Limited is part of the MSCI index. We have no clarity whether the combined entity HDFC Bank nahi hai, or combined entity will be a bank. So there is no clarity whether HDFC Bank will be part of the MSCI index. तो FIs को समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, तो उन्होंने पोजीशन ट्रिम करी है. So the FI holding has come down from almost 72% to I think 65-66%. So that is one. Secondly, uh, 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 the pressure on this merger news has created pressure in terms of the combination. My personal view is it is consolidating and it is due to. I think it's due for I would not say breakout, but I think should do well. Operationally, I don't see any challenges in HDFC Bank. उनका NIM, उनका CASA, उनका asset quality is best in the class. I think it's. I think it's a to me for the first time probably it looks like a value buy. Is all I can say.
Right. Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that, sir. Okay, so Sachin sir, next question was on real estate, which we have already discussed. So Sachin sir, if you were slightly late to the podcast, we'll release a recording of this podcast immediately after it's over. You can maybe listen to that. Okay, next Vijay Chandran sir ने ऐसा पूछा है, recycling industry is worth investing and paper industry overview post single plastic ban. So this is pretty interesting. I think जो plastic का ban आया है उसके बाद paper industry and recycling industry पे if you have a view, sir.
Uh, Partner, I don't know how many times plastic have been banned in last few years. And I tell you one thing, and this is my suggestion: कभी भी ना न्यूज बेस्ड इन्वेस्टिंग मत करो. स्टील पे ड्यूटी लग गया है तो स्टील स्टॉक्स का क्या करें? विंडफॉल टैक्स लग गया है तो ऑयल रिफाइनर्स का क्या करना है? Recycling. So see, ESG theme, having a cleaner environment is a steady team. और लोगों ने उसको ओवरडू किया, जो मैंने आपको बोला फर्स्ट पॉज में. आई डोंट थिंक सो दैट्स इट्स अ ग्रेट आइडिया टू जस्ट स्टार्ट. ये अगर न्यूज मार्केट में है तो सबको पता है, और सबको पता है तो भाव में है, प्राइस में है. So I honestly will not take a call, just because there's some ban government has done, and some states I don't know how they take it. So this regulatory infused things, I tend to basically avoid because वैसे इतना कुछ है करने को, 6-7 हज़ार कंपनीज हैं, बाकी कई जगह देख लेंगे जहाँ ये सब नहीं है.
Right. Perfect, sir. Okay. Next, sir, Shivam sir का question है, and he wants to know your views on FMCG sector.
FMCG sector.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so so FMCG में is something very similar to IT right now. Okay, you have a good correction which has happened, but valuations are still slightly on the higher side, right? So it's not downright cheap, and it is expensive. So I prefer companies which are into branded and premiumization of for example, I am not very gungo on normal personal care and skin care and hair oil players, because वो सारे stocks 40-50 के multiple में कुछ ज़्यादा भी हैं, and they are unlikely to grow their volumes in double digit. In fact, single digit भी होगा तो achievement है, because rural में अभी भी slow down है. Maybe post monsoon in the next crop things might look better, but I don't think so that ITC could be an exception, because ITC was very undervalued, and I'm also accused of making a lot of memes on ITC, but probably seems that has worked. So I'm more gungo on somebody where the top line growth can be good double digit, right? So something like, which are your food items. So I personally think what's happened to a tea, coffee, your atta will happen to all kitchen shelf items, right? So today, if you see, there was a news of Tata extending the Himalayan brand name to more things, just and not just the water, right? So I think it was dry fruits, if I'm not wrong, if I'm forgetting. And then they're getting into pulses, they're getting into spices. Starbucks is expanding the cuisine. It was EBITDA positive last quarter. It's been a bit of a drag. So both in-home, out-home consumption are looking good. I also think the QSR names, I also call them FMCG. Something like, if the leadership issue in, let's say, Jubilant is resolved now, Pratik Pota has joined somewhere else, and you have a seasoned guy who's come in. Stock has corrected. I still think this dining out thing and ordering online is a more sustainable long term trend. We are going to cook less and less and spend more time on other stuff. So earlier we were spending disproportionate time in cooking. I think that is undergoing a significant change as we move towards nuclear family, as we urbanize, and also I think that's a sustainable trend. And that's something also which I like. But again, as I said, FMCG, QSR, everything, they are not at a screaming buy right now. उसमें correction आया है, but price correction होने के बाद भी it's still expensive in my view. So be very very selective and careful.
Right. Thank you so much for that analysis, sir. Okay, next, Vishal Shah ka question tha, has Nifty bottomed out? Good time to invest in large cap, IT or mid cap, which we have kind of already discussed. Next, knowledge and ideas, the big bull sir ka question hai, what is the future of water treatment companies such as Ion Exchange, Watek, Wabag, and Antony Waste? Are they working on serious future problems?
So, these companies have been in focus every time there's some announcement in the budget. फिर वो Namami Ganges project था. There was a lot of announcements there. Again, my issue with them always, and I don't want to name any particular company, has been the way they manage working capital. And they have been very, I would say, subpar in doing that. Their receivables go up, the working capital cycle stretches, and then COVID happened. A lot of them, have debt on the balance sheet. The only company which has been able to do well, in fact, couple of them in the entire capital goods space, I would say, has been L&T. And L&T also, despite the huge order book, tendering activity, has been a relative underperformer in my view. Uh, I would tend to avoid this place. Simple reason being that there are better energy plays where you can see a bigger order visibility and better execution record. So something. So I'm more into clean energy than I think clean water is a great concept, but I'm yet to figure out a listed company which really captures it effectively. We study Pratibha, we study Vietech Wabag, there's so many things we study. The balance sheet comfort is, to me personally, I'm not saying the balance sheets are bad, is personally slightly less. And I prefer the clean energy place, the ethanol plays, companies getting into solar panels, EV charging and all. I think those plays I prefer more. Even the gas some of the gas distributors, and all. Those are the plays I prefer better. They have much better balance sheet, much better return ratios, and much better execution abilities.
Right. Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for that. Since we are already discussing this space, Kenil sir ka question is view or future of carbon credit market and domestic market around voluntary carbon credit market on India.
नहीं समझ में आया honestly.
So, sir, this is carbon credit market ke around.
अच्छा.
Is do you have a view on the companies that are dealing with carbon credit markets, and do you see a future for them?
No, so honestly, my understanding on carbon credit is almost like a layman. One related sector, one I would not say it's anything to do more with carbon credit is one of the platform plays which I like, which I've also spoken about, and there's been a healthy correction there. Is IEX, where the government basically essentially wants electricity to be traded as any other commodity. Currently, only 5-6% electricity is exchange traded, and rest of the are basically through PPA and other models. And I think last quarter, obviously, the volumes dropped, and the stock obviously went up also from 40 rupees to I think 300 odd. So we saw almost a 40-50% corrections, but eventually directionally, and there were some concerns on the MPED reforms also. But directionally, any platform where you have products which are there are DAM, there is TAM, there's technical, then there's RTM market which is ready to move market, and there are volumes from REC. Then there is trading of energy saving certificates and carbon credits, etc. That is something which we like more. Specific to carbon credits, specific to companies who are going to gain on it, I'm not too sure. IEX also, for example, commenced trading of energy saving certificates October onwards, which they want to promote industrial energy efficiency. So they started that in 2018-19, and they covered almost 8 different energy sensitive sectors, which are cement, iron, steel, textile, aluminum, fertilizer, etc., even paper. So that's something I tried, but nothing much on carbon credit. Sorry on that.
Right. Perfect, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your views on that, sir. Okay. Next, interesting question, sir. I find this is oil. We discussed oil prices have been going down, and so crude oil since low day by day low ja raha hai. So, what is your view on paint stocks? And Pranav sir especially asked about Asian paints. If you have a view, Gurmeet sir, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. Huh. So I'm saying Asian Paints clearly has been the one of the biggest wealth creators in the last 10-20 years, and despite the correction, I still think the price is still on the higher side. And it's a portfolio stock for me. I've been invested in it for last almost 8-9 years now. With that, I think the 2-3 things you need to track, especially when these earnings come just now. Uh, are they still able to maintain double-digit growth in the decorative paint segment? They have been able to do so far. So we need to see whether there is some slowdown in I don't think so. They will be looking at how the real estate sales have been. We have to see. The second is how well they have managed the margins because of the raw material inflation. Uh, while crude is just started softening, but the large part of the quarter, crude remain pretty elevated, and all crude derivatives and even titanium dioxide, which is a key component, remained on the higher side. They have taken a price hike of 24%. So they have done the price hike. Now, if crude falls, right, I don't think so they are going to pull back the prices, right? So we have to wait for the period where the crude prices drop, and if volumes remain double digit, and hopefully if you can get some better price points. So from 3600 it came down to 2500. It's again picked up a little bit. I think if you can stagger your investments there, or maybe I think basically I'm saying is if oil falls decisively, that's the time to probably look at it more. If you have it, hold it incrementally. There are better opportunities, right?
राइट, परफेक्ट सर, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर दैट. सो सर, क्वेश्चंस हमारे पास और भी बहुत 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 सारे आए हुए हैं आपके लिए, मेरे पास भी बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं, बट सिंस वी हैव अ हार्ड स्टॉप ऑन टाइम, तो बिफोर वी पार्ट आई वुड लव टू आस्क यू वन, मे बी एक एक कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क, एक एडवाइस फॉर अस दैट यू वुड लाइक टू लीव अस विद, मे बी. It can be related to what to do with this correction or in general about trading and investing. Something from you, sir.
Sure, sure. I was telling that, I have met all my team members on the call also. Uh, I can see Karan also. There's Pragya, Mandar, Rohit, Puneet, everyone. Uh, you know, we have seen in my career, I've seen 8, 9 corrections of more than 20%. Starting from the time I did my MBA in 2002, every 2, 3 years something goes wrong, right? And the name changes. I think ups and downs are part, and corrections are integral to market. But what you do in those down cycles determines your future trajectory. Two pieces of simple advice. First, one, if you feel very unnerved by this volatility and this is something which is too much to handle for you, just don't do anything, राइट जस्ट मैंने एक इनफैक्ट मजाक में बोला था, आप 3, 4 बार पासवर्ड गलत डाल दो, लॉक योर पोर्टफोलियो, राइट. एंड जस्ट कम बैक व्हेन थिंग्स बिकम बेटर, बट डोंट टेक एनी डिसीजन इन पैनिक, राइट. सेकंड, correct your mistakes. There is no proper time to correct the bad decisions you have taken, right. It's a myth that कि bull market में गलतियां करेक्ट करो. गलती करेक्ट करने का कोई टाइम नहीं है. If you have taken a wrong call, admit it. Don't get your ego in between. Don't think that I'll continue to average. I have seen over a period of time, good stocks make you average upwards, not downwards. So if something is making you average continuously downwards, कुछ problem है. Third, uh, you will never get a perfect level. Nobody's going to call you. The Fed chairman is not going to call you. Listen, we are not going to hike anymore. Inflation is bottom. It doesn't work like that, right? And I have not seen this kind of resilience in the market. I'm telling you, I launched my PMS 50 days back, and I was very worried with the volatility. जैसे लोगों ने IPO डिले कर दिया, हमने सोचा PMS डिले करना चाहिए कि नहीं. And then we thought that this is the best time to raise money. We are getting very good flows. I mean, very happy to share that. And look at the resilience in the market. I mean, you're getting almost $2 billion of SIP flows. The FIs have sold 52, $53 billion. This is a hell lot of money they've sold. And had it not been for people who are there on the spaces and retail investors, we would have been at 11,000, 10,000 Nifty. The fact that we have fallen less, we will go up much stronger on the way up. And think beyond 1 or 2 quarters, right? So if you have cash and if you have courage, both C's are important. Start deploying gradually. Uh, Look at some private sector banks, look at some good IT names. Infosys has corrected 50% 5 times in last 15 years. So कुछ नया नहीं है, right? So start putting some money to work. Stagger it, don't time it, and be balanced, right? Don't confuse price correction कि ये value buying हो गया है. कुछ गिर गया इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि suddenly it's become very expensive, right? कुछ stocks 90% गिरने के बाद भी 90% गिर सकते हैं, right? We saw that with Yes Bank. Right. So my view is that just stay put. Look at fixed income also. Look at REITs also. थोड़ा balance करो portfolio को. Lot of time bear market tells you what your risk appetite is. हमें सबको लगता है हम bull market investor हैं before this it hits us. So understand yourself first and have faith in India. I think I personally think despite whatever has happened, I think this is one of the best decades, ahead of us. So what you do in Mandi determines your return in Tezi, and that is what you should be, doing. Just stay put and have faith. You have to be an optimist if you are an equity investor. If you are a pessimist, आप 10 year bond खरीदो 7.5% पे मिल रहा है, काफी अच्छा yield है.
Perfectly put, sir. Sir, I really, really can't thank you enough for this. But before I do, I would want to request you to give me a promise that you will please make time for us again and come to talk to us again, give your insights, share your insights with us again, sir.
No, I will definitely. Yeah. I mean, you guys are giving a good platform, and at 10 o'clock we had 400 people. I think just tells you this is what makes me so positive on market. ना रात को 10 बजे आप मेरे को सुन रहे हो, rather than watching Netflix, whatever whoever is listening, that tells you we are, we have a good future ahead.
Definitely, definitely. And our audience, absolutely lovely audience. Thank you so much, everybody. Almost 400 people listening to us for past 1 hour. Thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah.
And of course, sir, 400 people, all kudos to your wisdom, experience, knowledge. So hats off to that, sir.
या वो एक थ्री इडियट्स में डायलॉग है कि बोल मैं रहा हूँ शब्द मेरी टीम के हैं सो लॉट ऑफ पीपल देयर आर ऑन द टीम आई थिंक दे
Right.
गिव मी ऑल ऑफ दैट डेटा एंड आई साउंड द इंटेलिजेंट वन हियर सो थैंक यू एवरीवन थैंक यू वेरी मच
Thank you once again. Thank
थैंक
you so much for your time, sir. Good night.
यू
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Have a really profitable day tomorrow. Bye bye.